Hi, everybody. Charles from GMAT Ninja here. Welcome to episode 2 in our series on that sexy, wonderful new section on GMAT Focus Data Insights. Brand new thing, old question types from integrated reasoning, data sufficiency getting recycled. Today, we're going to focus on two-part analysis. I'm going to argue that that is one of the two most complicated question types, toughest question types typically on data insights, along with multi-source reasoning, which we'll get to in episode 4. So how important is two-part analysis? It's going to be 10 to 20% of your data insights questions. If you're new to kind of exploring GMAT Focus data insights, 20 questions, 45 minutes on average, 2 minutes and 15 seconds per question. So 10 to 20% of the questions are going to be two-part analysis. So that's 2 to 4 questions. And here's the thing that's kind of crazy about it. The variety is absolutely enormous here. It could be quant, could be verbal, could be logic. If it's quant, could be absolutely any topic: probability, number properties, weighted averages, straight up algebra, not so straight up algebra. It could be absolutely anything. So one of the things that we're going to talk about as we do an overview video down the road for data insights, I want you to focus on studying your quant and verbal first. As you get stronger at those quant topics, it's going to help you a whole lot on two-part analysis. Just because anything is fair game, and you're not necessarily going to see any particular topic in a huge percentage of two-part analysis questions, but absolutely anything is fair game, and you see sprinklings everywhere. So today what we're going to do, I'm going to keep this session mostly quant topic agnostic. I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit as we go through, but the idea is that I'm not expecting to know a whole lot about math to get through the questions we're going to do that are quant heavy today. A little bit of algebra, that's kind of it. A lot of common sense, which is very typical also of two-part analysis questions. And here's the thing, I want you in the right mindset here. A lot of these questions are going to feel deeply, deeply unsatisfying on two-part analysis. It's one of the features that stands out to me the most as I've gone through every single question in print over the last couple months. Sometimes there's too much information. Sometimes the answers just feel so obvious that they feel freaking stupid. Don't let that trip you up. They're not out to trick you. Sometimes the answers just are that obvious. They're going to feel that way. That's okay. Do your job, focus on what's in front of you. If the answer seems easy, that's fine. Sometimes they're going to twist you up. Some of these get really nasty. That's okay too. If that's the case, guess and move on. Don't be a perfectionist. Remember, GMAT Focus Edition, one of the big changes coming up with it, every section you can change 3 answers. So don't be a perfectionist. Don't battle questions into the ground. It's terrible for you. Let things go. The other thing that's really unsatisfying, sometimes these have multiple solutions. There could be multiple correct answers. That's kind of the whole design of it. And they're going to write the question in a way that, yeah, there's only one set of things that's actually going to get you the points for that question, but it might be pick 2 numbers here that are consistent with the information given. It doesn't mean that those are the only 2 numbers that would work. It's just the only 2 numbers that appear in the answer choices. That can feel frustrating if you're not used to it. When you're used to the world of GMAT Quant, where it's 5 multiple choice answers all the time, this is going to feel really different at times. So today, the focus is getting that mindset right. I want you to be really flexible. I want you to be prepared to let stuff go. I want you to get used to the fact that you're not going to need every piece of information there. Sometimes we're going to blend quant and verbal in ways that are kind of funny. We're going to blend logic and quant in ways that are a little bit unusual. Verbal and logic in ways that we don't typically see on standard critical reasoning. Yes, you're going to see elements of critical reasoning, elements of quant all over the place. You're also going to see a whole bunch of other stuff all mixed together into this wonderful, I guess, thing. All right. For the people watching live, please, please, please participate. I contrary to popular belief, I don't really spend most of my life yapping into a camera by myself. I'm used to teaching people one-on-one and in classrooms, so I feed off the feedback. So if you're here, let me know what you're thinking. Please, please ask questions. That's why we do this live. No snack breaks. That part makes me sad. No editing. That also makes me sad. But I love the energy. So if you have questions, you have comments as we go, please let me know. And certainly for the live group, let me know how you're doing on these questions. Give you a little bit of time on these, and I want to hear what you're thinking. If you're struggling, you're wondering about something, you think you see a typo in the question, it probably isn't a typo, but let us know. I want to know what you're thinking. Helps us make the videos better for everybody. As always, also, please, please, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. That helps other people find these videos if you're enjoying it. All right. There you go. I did not put that up there, but hit that like button and the GMAT won't hit you. It's good karma. There we go. That's the story. One quick thing that people are asking here. Any of this material relevant to traditional GMAT as well? So we're filming this October 2023. We are 1 month, 1 day away from the launch of the GMAT Focus Edition. These sessions are focused on the GMAT Focus. That was a terrible sentence. But yeah, if you're doing the integrated reasoning section on the old GMAT, Absolutely relevant. Same question types, these same 4 question types: two-part analysis, graphical interpretation, table analysis, multi-source reasoning. This series is going to help you with integrated reasoning. It's just integrated reasoning is not part of the overall composite score on the old GMAT. So our focus here is on the new GMAT, but everything I'm going to tell you is going to help you with the old one here too. More questions here. Let's go with these before we jump into questions today. Data insights. Will data insights be the same as DS and Quant and IR? So I think you're asking about data sufficiency. So data sufficiency that used to be part of the Quant section is now going to be part of the data insights section on the GMAT Focus. We're going to talk about that more in episode number 5. No data sufficiency today, just focus on the two-part analysis. All right. And I think that is enough for now. Getting questions about practice materials. Use the official questions, people. It's the best thing you can get. These questions are a little bit odd at times. Said the same thing in the graphical interpretation video. Sometimes these two-part analysis questions kind of feel a little wacky. They're really specific. It's going to take a while for the test prep community to get our heads around how do we produce versions of these that really make sense. I think we can with some, not with others. Really focus on official guide, official data insights review guide, those online data insights practice questions that you can get from MBA.com. That's going to be your best resources for this stuff. And nothing else is ever going to come close right now. In particular, as we're still learning about these, nothing comes close. Stick to the official stuff, everybody. Okay. I'm going to warm you up gently. So I've got 6 questions teed up for today. Mix of quant, verbal, logic, trying to capture the spirit of two-part analysis. Not going to try to boil the ocean and give you every single quant topic or every single logical structure. Can't do that in a session this long. So we're going to do maybe 6 questions if we have time. We might end up cutting off at 4 or 5, depending on time's going. Now, this first one, very much a warm-up. Not trying to make your eyeballs melt or anything on the difficulty of it. It's a warm-up. I'm only going to give you 2 minutes pretty strictly, because I want your eyes going to the information that's important. And hopefully you'll see what I mean. If it takes you more than 2 minutes, it means you're not quite in the right mindset for data insights yet. Go ahead and take 2 minutes on this. All right, 2 minutes is up. Okay, I'm going to leave it on the screen for just a moment here, and then I'll take it off so you can see the answers I've written up here. Here's the deal. Look at all that text. Tons of text, tons of stuff. Oh, one of them's 30 kilometers west of the other, and your brain wants to go towards, oh, I'm going to maybe use the formula where one thing is chasing the other, or start to get the speed differentials, or set up 2 different formulas. I've seen people try to solve 2 simultaneous equations here. Read the question. All we're being asked for after that pretty long chunk of text, not a terribly hard question. The math is not hard at all here. But all this stuff, what are we being asked at the end? Number of kilometers. So there's all the information we need, right? Number of kilometers that the front of train M travels in 45 minutes at 80 kilometers per hour. How far does N travel in 1 hour at 65 kilometers per hour? The stuff in blue up there, that is all you need. That's it. All the rest of it is junk. You can ignore it. Welcome to Data Insights. And yes, I'm getting people saying this feels too easy to be true. And that's why I wanted to warm up with this, because I think what I see all the time, remember, adaptive test. You miss the questions that are easy for you, the test is going to knock your head off. Miss all the hard ones you want. Algorithms trying to find the level of question at which you get half right, half wrong. Your score is basically determined by the difficulty, not just the number of errors. Nail the easy stuff. If it's easy for you, nail it. Be careful. Be in the right mindset. People see this question all the time and go, oh, they're out to trick me. I got to do more stuff. Got to do more stuff. No, this is it. Read it twice, read it carefully, digest the information and go, well, yeah, most of it's junk. So train N, 1 hour at 65 kilometers per hour. I'm a verbal expert, but I think that's 65. So there's N. And 45 minutes, that's 3/4 of an hour times 80. Yeah, here's train M. That's it. Welcome to Data Insights. Some of them are going to feel this way. Don't assume you need all the information. Your head's going to pop off and roll down the street. Never think they're out to trick you. They're trying to test your data skills. That's it. Your quant skills, your verbal skills, your reading skills, and so on. Get out of the mindset of they're out to trick me. So here's your little warm up. Extra crap there. Really easy math in the end. You're going to see questions like that. Not saying everything is going to be like that. Nowhere close. Pretty typical. So just wanted to warm you up with that one. Get you in the right mindset for Data Insights. And now let's hit this next one. Give you a couple minutes here. Little bit of verbal, but different. Right. If you're watching this pre-recorded, need a little more time, feel free to hit that pause button for the live group. Here we go. All right. Again, fairly typical, fairly long thing here. Again, this is very much like critical reasoning, still warming you up a little bit here. Critical reasoning, same thing if you've watched some of our other videos on verbal. Same thing here. We got a nice standard passage. First thing you want to do is think, okay, what's the logical structure here? What's the heart of the passage? Is there a conclusion? Got a nice clear assumption thing going on with some wrinkles that are typical of data insights, two-part analysis. But in this case, we do have a conclusion. So we will be able to determine, notice that language always catches my eye. If there's something that's pretty absolute, great. Not to say that you necessarily need to do something super mechanical with it, but absolute language jumps out at me. We will be able to determine on the basis of compositional analysis where the next cup we recover from the site was made. As always, with these nice, straightforward critical reasoning passages that have a conclusion, I want to think, okay, how'd the author get there? What's the support? In this case, yeah, there's some background there, kind of names some sites, talks about the different materials that are used. But the key is each center developed a unique recipe for its porcelain. Because each recipe is unique, therefore, we're going to be able to determine using compositional analysis exactly where the next cup we recover from this archaeological site was made. Looking for an assumption here. So, okay, we're looking for something that if we add it in here, add in that assumption, it's going to be something that reinforces or strengthens this. Might be in a really minor way, might just pave a little pothole here. That might be all it does, but it's going to allow us to draw that conclusion. And just as importantly, not only is it going to reinforce something, strengthen something, but it's going to be necessary. It's something we absolutely need. Without it, we can't make this conclusion. So let's go through these guys. Let me write them right here. So we have 6 answer choices. Welcome to Data Insights. So other cups have been recovered from the archaeological site, all of which were made of porcelain. We don't need them all to be made of porcelain here. All we need to know is if the next one was made of porcelain. If you want to be a little bit conservative, you could hang on to it. I wouldn't mind that at all. But we don't need all of them to be made of porcelain, all the ones in the past. We just need to know that the next one is porcelain. So I'm going to get rid of A. I wouldn't blame you one bit if you hung on to it because it doesn't seem so far off. Does it strengthen? Yeah, but we don't need all of the previous cups to be porcelain. All we really care about is that next cup. B, some of the cups were not made of porcelain. That actually kind of weakens it. That goes the wrong direction. I can get rid of B. C, the next cup will likely be made of porcelain. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Now, here's the thing. This is part of why I picked this. 2 reasons. One is critical reasoning. You've probably done it before. Maybe you've watched some videos on it, done a bunch of practice. You're going to do tons of it for the verbal section if you haven't already. Yeah, a little wrinkle in it because now we kind of have 2 questions in one. That's part of why I chose it. The other reason is, boy, this just seems too obvious to be worth picking. And again, theme here in these first couple questions seems too obvious. I see a lot of people crossing this out. Don't do that. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, to use an American cliche. Something seems too easy. They're not trying to trick you. Seems right. All right, let's hang on to it. Let's keep going though. Cross-elimination always. Don't want to fall in love with it. What if something's better? D, porcelain makers often travel between centers. Who cares? Doesn't really matter whether they did that or not. They might be learning. Doesn't change the fact that each center has its unique recipe. That's one of the keys to the passage. What about E? There was considerable overlap of the materials. Well, that's fine too. Doesn't change the fact that every recipe is unique, has no bearing on that, has no bearing on our ability to determine where the next one was made. E's out. And F, most of it was made in one of the several centers. That kind of sounds useful, right? Because what we want to be able to say is, oh, because the porcelain was made in one of these centers, so we can do the compositional analysis and then we know. And if it wasn't made in those centers, that's a problem. My objection here is, you can look at it a couple different ways. I don't like that word most. That actually kind of weakens it. Look at the language in the conclusion. We will be able to determine where the next cup was made. Yeah, most of it was made in one of these centers. But wait a minute, what about the rest of it? Does it say all? If it said all, maybe we could argue here. But when it says most, it's like, that's not an assumption I need. I don't need to assume that most of it is. Maybe all we could argue, but most? Okay, what about whatever's left after the most? So F is out. So the assumption required here is going to be C. Now here's the wrinkle that feels a little funky. What's the fact that supports the conclusion? If you've done a pile of critical reasoning, probably never seen anything quite like that. I've never seen a question that I can think of, LSAT, GMAT, GRE for that matter, executive assessment, that says, I want a fact that supports the required assumption. Very unusual phrasing. Welcome to Data Insights. You're going to get funky phrasings like this. So what's the fact that supports that assumption? The assumption is that next cup will be porcelain. Well, pretty straightforward here. Coming back to A, which kind of looked decent from the start, other cups have been recovered, all of which were made of porcelain. Yeah, that definitely supports it. So if all the other cups have been made of porcelain, that fact, if true, is going to provide significant logical support for this. So A supports C. I'm not going to go walk through all the rest of them in the interest of time. I think I'm going to bore most of you if I do that. I might be boring most of you already. So what's the fact that supports that conclusion? Answer choice A. So your assumption is C. Your possible fact is A. All right. Warm-ups are over now. I'm going to get you to something a little bit tougher here. And I think this is tougher. We'll see. Feels like quant, but now we're starting to get into that business of mixing stuff up a little bit. Here you go. All right. If you're watching this live and you feel lost, please type something in just so I know what you're thinking. I'm lost. My brain's exploding, whatever. Okay, cool. We're getting some stuff going. That's nice. Finally got somebody. I'm gonna give you another 30 seconds here. And then we'll talk about the challenge of this and what to do about it. Oh, wow. Live group. Thank you so much. This is absolutely delightful. So this one's rough. And again, we're still figuring out what students struggle with, what they don't on data insights. So it's super helpful to get your feedback just because, yeah, we've taught integrated reasoning for 12 years now, but data insights, new thing, not even officially part of the test for a month here. So thank you so much for the live group. I'm seeing a ton of struggles. I think of the answers I see coming in so far, maybe 20% are correct, something like that. So fantastic, really helpful to hear. If you're struggling, you are not alone. Really appreciate this comment because I think that's how a lot of people feel. Welcome to Data Insights. Welcome to two-part analysis. It's quant, it's verbal, it's everything kind of mixed together, and it gets really ugly sometimes. Now, what do you do with this thing? Mountain of information. And they're only kind of asking about a little piece of it. We want to know, okay, which of these ratios can be determined? So we know the ratio of one of these types of trees to the other. And we also want that ratio to be less than 1. Put another way, we want X here to be less than Y. Well, that's fine. That part's not very interesting. Okay, but then we just all this stuff, and what do you do with it? Now, one of the really big keys, one of the habits I want you to get into in general data insights, not just two-part analysis, as you get these questions where it starts to sprawl, 2 really big keys. Do anything you can to organize your information. If there's a way to help you visualize what's going on, do it. Visualize what's going on. Draw yourself a picture if that helps. Want to draw some trees, happy little trees? Okay, that's not the art ninja. Sure, if that helps you knock yourself out, draw pictures if that's how your brain works, if you're more visual. If that's going to help you make sense of it, great. Draw a flow chart, write notes out, whatever it's going to take. Key number 1 to some of these where it gets really, really crazy. If you can organize this information, it's not that bad. It's bad. It's not that bad. Key number 1. Key number 2, be prepared to let go. For anybody that's done the old integrated reasoning section, 12 questions, 30 minutes from the old GMAT, man, that thing was super time pressured for almost everybody. If you're an exception to that and you could smoke through all 12 questions comfortably in 30 minutes, good for you. Most people, even a lot of the tutors I know, really struggle. Data Insights seems a little bit less speeded. They've changed the formula a little bit. We've added in data sufficiency, tweaked a couple things, more questions, a little bit more time. But it's still going to be really time pressured. So key number 2, let go. Key number 1, something like this, give yourself a visual, organize your information as best you can. If it's not going well for you, key number 2, let it go. Remember, you can change 3 answers out of 20 on the data insights section. Be prepared to let go. That's totally fine. You pick your battles. You control the test. Super critical. I want that in the back of your head, maybe the front of your head, all the time as you're practicing. Now, what do we do with this information? I'm going to give myself a little bit more space here. So X is less than Y. Cool. Well, all right. We got this whole business that the conifers are 32%. Well, that's cool. Well, what can we do with that? What do we know about these conifers? Well, that breaks down. We know that there's 258 spruces. And we know that there's 112 pines. Boy, wouldn't I be happy if they had spruce and pines as the answer choices here. But guess what? They don't. Thank you, GMAT. You're really nice. And then there's some other stuff. Cedars and whatever. Okay, so I could get the ratio spruce to conifer, maybe, except not, because I don't know exactly how much this other stuff is, right? Sounds like you could. But what's this other stuff? I don't know. Cedars, other trees, how many? Don't know. So this is some subset. I could get spruce to pines, not answer choice. All right, well, great. Let me keep going, see what else I can do. Most of the rest are deciduous. How many deciduous? I don't know. Is it 68%? No, it's less than 68%. How much less? I don't know. Great. Thank you, GMAC. Most of them are oaks. Okay, what does most mean? Well, that's annoying. I don't know what it means, so can't get anything out of that. Fine. 1/8 was a maple. That's cool. So of the deciduous, we know that 1/8 are maple. Of the maples coming along soon, we know that 20% are Japanese maple. Okay, what else do we know? We know how the oaks break down, and notice what a mess this is becoming. I'm a little bit constrained by the screen here, but we can take the oaks and also do some stuff with it. So we know that of those oaks, we have 65% that are red oaks, I'm sorry, and 25% white. Okay, so now a couple ways you could do this from here. one is you could kind of start playing around with the answer choices and see which ones you can get. Now, here's the problem with that, with just kind of playing with the answer choices, the way you might on quant, let's say, or verbal. 5 answer choices, you're fine. Well, the thing is, you need 2 of them. One is the X, one is the Y. The same thing. I mean, so, okay, well, now we have 36 choices, something like that, 30 choices, really. So 30 options. I can't really hunt and peck around. I think that's going to make it really, really hard. Instead, the better approach here is I'm looking for anything I can that's going to give me some certainty in the ratio. So how do I get after that? Well, what do I know? I can get red to white oaks. I can get, so these are numbers, right? I know the ratio of red oaks to total oaks, white oaks to total oaks, red oaks to white oaks. Here's my red oaks. That's all I got. No oaks, no white oaks. So that's not helping me. Spruce to pines, we already know that doesn't get us anywhere, not in the answer choices, but we don't know this other stuff. So we don't know the ratio of conifer to anything. What about the deciduous? Well, I know that most of them are oaks. I know that 1/8 of the deciduous are maple. So 7/8 are not maple. Wait a minute. I know the ratio of maple to deciduous, right? So 7/8 are maple. That means the ratio of maple to deciduous is going to be 1:8. That's cool. Japanese maple, I know that as well. I know the ratio of Japanese maple to regular maples overall is going to be 1:5. So I could get the ratio of Japanese maple to deciduous, and now I'm in business. Japanese maples, deciduous, my answers are C and D. Only thing you need to do here, watch your back a little bit, make sure you're answering the right thing. Easy to flip them around. I think I've seen a couple people do that in the live group. We know that X is less than Y because we need that ratio to be less than 1. So your X is going to be the one that there's less of. That's the Japanese maples. So Japanese maples are your X and deciduous are your Y. So your answers here are going to be D and C. All right. Everybody having fun. Couple thoughts here. Actually, I'm going to start with Mark's comment. Mark, thank you again. I really appreciate all the feedback participation the last couple of days. You can delete the uncertainty. Yeah, it's actually a really good point. I'm being a little more comprehensive in what I'm scribbling on the board just because, hey, I want you guys to kind of have the chance to sort of walk through all the thinking. But yeah, if the shortcut here potentially is if you can kind of digest the passage and say, the thing I might write down is only the thing that is certain. Yeah, better. And so this is where when we talk about flexibility, so one of the things you might hear me say in the quant videos, read twice, plot your path forward, decide what you're going to do before you do it. This is a really good case of it. Before you start just scribbling stuff on the page, yeah, maybe it helps you to organize that information, start writing so that you can get your head around it. But if you see a way to trim this down and go, wait a minute, let me just cut to the things that are certain, fantastic. You're going to be rewarded for it. And that's the type of flexibility that you really want to engage in here. All right. I know the deciduous is available. The deciduous, actually, really good question, Garvit, or Garvit. Apologies for any mispronunciations. We don't. We know that it's less than 68%. We actually don't know that. What we do know is the ratio of maple to deciduous. We don't know the ratio of deciduous to the total. We don't know exactly how many deciduous. But if maples are 1/8 of the deciduous, it must be the case that for every 1 maple, there are 8 deciduous. So that's where this feels a little wrong. It feels wrong, but that's totally correct. We don't know exactly how many deciduous there are. We don't need to. We need the ratio of maple, or in this case, Japanese maple to deciduous. And that we actually have here. Pooja, great to see you again. If we're unable to answer, wise thing is to make an educated guess. Yes, one little caution here. When you think about quant verbal, kind of your standard questions, five answer choices. If you blindly guess, you have a 20% chance of getting it right. Educated guess, let's say you eliminate 2, you've got a 1/3 chance of getting it right. If you eliminate 3, you have 50% chance. Yeah, not here, guys. You can't make I mean, if you have some idea, if you can narrow it down a lot, great. But educated guessing on data insights doesn't generally improve your odds by much, because what does that mean? In this particular question, 6 answer choices, really 6 options for X. You're not going to pick the same one again in this particular question. 5 for Y. You've got 30 combinations of answer choices. Really, there's 30 choices here. So educated guessing isn't something, again, if you can eliminate some, easily take it. but I wouldn't think of educated guessing as something that's really going to be a strategy that's going to overhaul your score. It's not. If you're lost here, yes, do your best with what information you have. Take a stab that's reasonable, but don't waste a lot of time here trying to go from blind guess to educated guess, because if you can eliminate a couple of these answer choices, your odds are still pretty freaking terrible. So educated guessing doesn't pay off in quite the same way here as we might like it to, or as we expect it to, even on a standard multiple choice test. Okay. Anything else here? Okay. Those are new combinations. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next one. Hope you're all having fun. This one's going to be a little bit verbally again. So go ahead and take a couple minutes. All right. As always, hit that pause button if you need a little more time if you're not watching it live. For the live crowd. Sorry, guys. Moving on. All right. Once again, what I wanted to illustrate here, part of why I picked this question, it's critical reasoning, a little bit of a twist. If you're used to kind of the thing on critical reasoning where you say, oh, here's all the question types I've seen before, same sort of feel, right? It's a paragraph long. You got to read it. You got to read with precision. Their words are yours. Make sure you're not putting words in the author's mouth. You're going to get yourself into trouble. And what can you do with this? It's just a little bit of a less conventional question type in the end. Which cause and effect sequence would most likely, according to the naturalist, so according to this guy, might be nuts, might not be nuts, which of these sequences would most likely result in coral reef decline? Feels a little bit different than critical reasoning, even though the passage itself is the same idea. And once again, we have 5 choices but we have to pick two of them, and the order matters. One's the cause, one's the effect. So this is where it's just layers on top of the critical reasoning. I want you to have good hygiene the way we teach in those critical reasoning videos. Read with precision. Think about the logical structure of the passage. What is the author's argument? Is there a conclusion? If there is, how did they get there? That sort of thing. Now, again, here's a little bit of a funkier passage. It's a little bit more of a, okay, they sort of lay out a bunch of facts, and you've got to kind of think through what this is going to be. And by the way, for anybody watching not live, the live group is getting beat up really thoroughly by this. So I'm seeing a ton of wrong answers. So it means I picked a good hard one. So if you struggled here, you are absolutely not alone and totally normal. I think this is a tough one. Okay, so we're interested in this coral reef decline. Now, according to the naturalist, so I'm going to kind of put that over here and say, okay, coral decline. Well, what gets us to that coral reef decline? Well, it's predation, according to a little passage, right? One contributing factor, not the only one contributing factor is predation by organisms such as the crown of thorn sea star. I'm just going to abbreviate it as by SS. So predation by the sea star leads to the decline of coral reefs. Okay, fantastic. Well, then what else do they say? What do they say leads to that predation by sea stars? And then it kind of goes into, well, their preferred food source of the sea star is the coral polyps. Okay, fine. So how has coral reef decline gotten worse? Well, human fishing practices have decreased the predators. So less predators, we'll say sea star predators, less SS predators. For example, such as the harlequin shrimp. Great word. Harlequin. So such as the harlequin shrimp. So fewer of those, more predation by the sea stars leads to coral reef decline. And then you got this thing about the phytoplankton. It just kind of feels random. And again, this is where the feel sometimes of data insights is a little bit different than critical reasoning. And kind of looking at the comments from the live crowd, I think this is part of what's causing the trouble. And I think what makes this hard, that last sentence, it's not that it feels irrelevant exactly. So it's possible that the runoff containing nutrients for phytoplankton resulted in larger phytoplankton blooms. The crown of thorns sea star eats that. Wait, why are we talking about the sea star eating phytoplankton? Because we have this whole thing about, well, the sea star gets eaten by the shrimp and the sea star really likes eating the coral polyps. And what's this phytoplankton thing? Well, it's harder to connect, I think, than typical critical reasoning. All right, well, what's the argument here? I think the naturalist is kind of saying, if there's more phytoplankton, then the sea star, there's going to be more sea stars, right? It's another food source for the sea stars. So more of the phytoplankton. If there's more phytoplankton, then there's more sea stars. More sea stars, more predation by sea stars. Notice the language there. Their preferred food is coral polyps. So since they prefer that, if we've got more sea stars running around, then yeah, more coral reef decline. Okay, let's go through these answer choices. Do we feel great about this? Probably not, but welcome to Data Insights. That seems to be what we're saying. Now, I'm really hoping that I can find answer choices that are kind of up here because this feels a little tenuous to me. But notice the language here. Most likely, according to the naturalist. Naturalist brought this up. More phytoplankton, more sea stars, more sea stars, more sea stars running around munching coral reef polyps. So, all right. So what are we suggesting here? Cause and effect that then leads to coral reef decline. Cause, well, what if there's more phytoplankton? Let's try that as a cause. What would the effect be according to this? It means an increase in the crown of thorn sea stars. So here's your effect. Does that make sense? More phytoplankton, more sea stars running around munching the coral reef polyps. There you go. And that's our answer, A and C. All right. Everybody having fun? We are pushing the 45-minute mark. My original goal here was to go through 6 questions. I think we really only have time for one more. And I've seen this question pop a bunch of times. I'll go ahead and answer it now since there will be less type of question released. We expect level will be not too hard. No, this has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Number of questions released has nothing to do with the difficulty. Adaptive test. The questions can be really easy, really hard, anywhere in between. They can keep writing these questions. GMAT is very good about keeping their question banks really large, really full. Hard, easy, you're going to see everything. Difficulty is going to depend on how you're doing. Nothing to do with what they're releasing. You're just going to see a huge range of them potentially on your test. If you're seeing a bunch of easy questions, probably means you're struggling. A bunch of hard questions probably means you're doing well. I don't want you thinking about that as you take the test, but for what it's worth, release of questions has nothing to do with difficulty level. The test is adaptive. Difficulty level is going to be driven entirely by your performance. All three sections: data, insights, quant, verbal. Okay. Getting one more question here. I'm going to pop the question up on the screen one more time. Getting a lot of people asking, so why not E and then D? And Mark, appreciate you, man. Kind of having him pop in and help people out. Increase in harlequin and shrimp. Does that lead to a decrease in C star? So people are saying E is the cause, more harlequin and shrimp. D is the effect, fewer C stars. Yeah, but look at the question. Does it result in coral reef decline? No, it doesn't. It goes the opposite direction. So you need something that is a cause-effect relationship that leads you here. That's the key. And once again, I know I'm a broken record on this, but it's such a huge key. You're going to get beat up by some of these questions because they're hard. Don't beat yourself. Read the question twice. When you're done, read it one more time. Make sure you're barking up the right tree. I say that about quant as well. Really important here. You misread a word or two. And I think you've all heard me say this before. I've done every data insights question that has been released so far, and I keep missing them because of inattention. I miss a word or two. I get myself into trouble. I'm not dialed in. I'm doing them to learn about the test. I'm not in test mode. Don't let that happen to you. Don't miss these questions because you missed a little piece of the question itself. Really bad habit. If you catch yourself doing that, it's one of the most important things you can fix. You struggle with logic here, welcome to the club. These are tough. Okay. Let's hit one more. And I am debating between a logical one and a really hard quant one. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to skip ahead a question here, since I think we really only have time for one more. This is a really nasty quant one, and I'm going to preface this a little bit here. Again, my goal for this video, I can't give you a comprehensive taste of absolutely everything on two-part analysis in a 1 hour video, and I'd like to finish this up at the hour mark. So I'm going to take you to the opposite extreme. We gave you a couple easy ones to warm up, get you in the right mindset, think about flexibility, think about sort of the fact there's too much information, how to be efficient with them. A couple harder ones logically, organize your information efficiently. Same thing here, a little bit different than normal critical reasoning. Can you think about breaking down a slightly more complex argument than usual? Now, this last one, now I am trying to melt your face off. Some of you might not find this to be a struggle. I think most of you will. My explanation of it is going to be inherently really ugly on purpose. So bear with me here. I'm trying to make a point about what this can feel like. And remember, if something's really, really tough for you, cross the board on this test. Let it go. Don't get stuck. Don't dig in for 6 minutes on a question. It'll kill you. Remember, you can change 3 answers every section now on the GMAT Focus. So with all that in mind, good luck to you. It's just algebra. It's just logic. I swear there's nothing super technical here. But for most people, this one's a real bear. Good luck to you. And I'm going to give you a hint. Algebra might not be your friend here. All right. If you want to torture yourself, you're watching this not live, hit the pause button if you really want to. But man, this is rough. Live crowd. I not tracking exactly how much time I've given you so far, 3 or 4 minutes. I have 0 correct answers in the group. I have some good thinking, but 0 correct answers. So, all right. I'm going to take this off the screen in just a moment so you can see what I have on the board. Yep, seeing some wrong answers starting to pop up. That's awesome too. Thank you for everybody participating. Really appreciate you guys. I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly. Again, my goal here, mindset. And just to be totally clear, I think this is a really, really hard question. It's rated hard in GMAT system. This is if your goal is something like a 650, 645, 655 on the GMAT Focus, which is equivalent to the old 700. Great score. That puts you pretty close to the 90th percentile. You're going for 90th percentile. You don't need to get this. This is awful. You're not going to get every question right. Learn to pick your battles. Really, really big deal on data insights. It's a big deal on quant and verbal too. I'd say an even bigger deal on data insights. You're overmatched by a question like this, let it go. Now, again, flexibility is the key. And I'm going to feel terrible butchering names here, so I'm not going to try to pronounce this. Hey, awesome thinking. You're on the right track. I'm going to do this the wrong way on purpose here. Not wrong way, but I'm doing it a bad way. But a couple of you getting some good thinking there. Really appreciate it starting out. Okay. This explanation may not be appropriate for sensitive viewers. It's going to get really ugly here for a minute on purpose. Then I'm going to try a different way. That's also going to get ugly. Here's what I do not want you to do, or at least if you're going to start doing this, I want you to stay very aware. Crucial part of your mindset, quant, data insights, especially data insights. If you start down a path, I want you to stay aware of where it's getting you. My first instinct might have been, many of you, I'm sure the first instinct is, let's do some algebra. All right, day one, 33 tickets. So I don't know, let's say that QA and QC, those are the number of tickets sold. And I'm going to rifle through this really quickly, partly just to make the point of how crazy it gets. So I could say QA plus QC day one is going to get me 33. And I can say that A, which is the price, they define that variable for us in the question, A times QA plus C times QC. Well, that's going to be that $323. All right, 2 equations, 1, 2, 3, 4 variables. I don't feel great, but hey, I got this other equation here, so I'm good. Day 2, I got 44 tickets, so QA plus QC is equal to 44. Wait a minute, but these have to be different variables. I can't call that the same thing as this because it's a different quantity on day 2. So let's call it N, I guess. Guys, I'm up to 6 variables. I'm in trouble. And the faster I recognize that my path has taken me nowhere, the better off I'm going to be, because I can keep writing equations till the cows come home here. And 4 equations, 6 variables. Maybe some of you are smart enough to get somewhere. I'm not smart enough to get anywhere with this. And at the very, very least, it's going to take me a long time. Be conscious of your path. If your path is garbage, get out. Think of something else. Now what? Now all I've got is, let me take a step back, use my human brain. Can I think of something logical that's going to help here? So, sure. Yeah. What do I have? Well, I don't know, man. I've got averages. Maybe that tells me something. Maybe there's some weighted average component to this question, and that's going to get me somewhere. I'm not convinced at first, but maybe. Now, remember, got a calculator for data insights, not for the other sections. In the interest of time, I already punched this into the calculator. So your average revenue per ticket day one is going to be $9.79. A little bit lower here, but same ballpark, $9.64. Does that fix anything for me? Not perfect, not perfect. Doesn't do a lot for me, but I know that I don't know. A couple of these are going to have, or one of these is going to have to be smaller. One of them is going to have to be larger. It doesn't make any sense to have 10, 11 or 11 and 12 as my solutions. Can't be 6 and 8. I kind of have to have them one on one side of this and one on the other. So one of them, again, the A tickets are more expensive. So that's going to be here somewhere. That is some ugly drawing. And the kids' tickets are going to have to be one of these two. That's nice. Does that help me? I'm down to 3 times 2. I've got 6 options here. Cool. Not nothing. Now I've got some people in the live group, light bulbs going on. I've got an odd number here. I have an odd number here. So what does that tell us? One of these things. So either the number of adult tickets sold. I'm going to erase day 2 for a second here. One of these numbers has to be odd. Number of kids tickets or number of adult tickets has to be odd. We got to have one odd and one even. So either this is odd and this is even, or the other way around, but you're going to have one of each. Now you multiply that times the prices, you get an odd number. So whatever that odd number of tickets is, there has to be an odd price or else you can't get this odd price. So we've got to have an even and an odd, or an odd and an even. One of the prices is odd. Welcome to Data Insights. They're helping you out. 11, got to be. Who's 11? Got to be the adults. No other way it makes sense. So the adult tickets, $11 for sure. Now, maybe somebody can do something slick and algebraic. You don't need to. You can screw in your human brain here. A little bit of algebra, a little bit of trial and error, however you want to think about it. It's got to be 6 or 8. If you're feeling the pinch of time, I suppose you could guess 50-50 here, but it's actually not that hard to get to something that makes sense. Let me start punching some stuff in here and see. I've got this little equation. Now I know that the adult ticket's going to cost $11. What else do I know? I've got this equation here too. And I can pick a value for C. So for example, I can try punching in, I don't know which one we want to try first. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to go 6 first. So I can put in a 6 here. 2 equations, 2 variables. I like my chances. Now I'm going to say that QC, using this top equation, QC is going to be equal to 33 minus QA. And now all I have to do is punch that in. I got one equation, 1 variable. I like my odds. Watch me screw up the arithmetic because I'm trying to hustle through and get done not too far past the 1 hour mark. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking around so long. If you're still suffering here, please hit the like button, even though right now you probably don't like me very much. And please subscribe. Helps people find the videos. And again, if you're suffering on this question, no shame in it whatsoever. Let's go 11 QA plus, that's going to be 198, I believe. Somebody in the live crowd, please yell at me if I got the numbers wrong. And if I'm not mistaken, we get, 6 QA. Check your work, people. We all make mistakes. All right. So we get 5QA. And if I'm not mistaken, we get 125 over here. That works. This is totally plausible. What's the question asking us for? Something that works. And 6 is our winner. As homework, if you want, try punching 8 into this equation. What you're going to get is something that is not an integer. You're going to get that A is equal to some fractional number of, or QA. You're going to get a fractional number of tickets. It doesn't make any sense. All you have to do is test out one of these. I'll spoil the surprise. 8's not going to work, but 6 does. You get something perfectly reasonable. Okay, everybody. Sorry to keep you past the hour mark. Thank you, everybody, for watching this. Once again, if you enjoyed it, please like, please subscribe. 3 more live videos coming up at least. We might do 4 depending on what you want. We've got table analysis. We've got multi-source reasoning, mother-in-law of all data insights question types. You think this was rough? Both are multi-source reasoning. And if you got nothing else out of this video, pick your battles. Pick your battles. You're not going to get everything. Welcome to Data Insights. Some of these get nasty. Some of them don't. Don't overthink. Organize your information. And if you're getting beat up, see if you can find a different way. Don't get yourself locked into a path. Be flexible. Trial and error is your friend. Look for relationships. Look for alternate routes to get to your answer. If you don't see them, walk away. As you practice, you're going to get better at seeing this stuff. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Mark in particular, really appreciate all the participation. Some of the other folks that have been here live, really appreciate you guys. All right. We will see you next time. Thank you, everybody.